Welcome to Getting Into Boundary. We are on a bit of an off day today. We're on a Friday. Usually this is on a Thursday, but we were busy. So welcome to this episode of Getting Into Boundary. This is the first time you're joining us. This is Cole and myself learning and exploring Boundary the most difficult way possible, which maybe isn't that. Oh, you have your Boundary shirt today. You're repping the shirt.
Pretty much always have it. But yeah.
I don't think I have one. No,
that is messed up.
I don't know. I just don't have it because I think the dots just don't show up. So yeah, so I don't have them. But so Cole's repping Boundary today. If you missed any of the previous episodes, we do have a short link that leads to a YouTube playlist. Check that out. Last time we talked about grant strings, so roles, grant strings, basically access control related to how do you get access to a target and boundary. And today we are going to be talking about credentials, injection, and brokering, which sounds very fancy. And the first time I heard of it, I was like, what would it be about exactly? And it turns out it's pretty neat. Cole, follow along with me. Imagine a world in which you didn't have to go to a password manager and copy a password and then paste it into your command line to log into some endpoint somewhere. Or, imagine you didn't have to paste the EC2 key pair into your password vault and say, hey, Rosemary, this is SSH for this EC2 instance that we're both working on. And then I don't have to copy and paste it and put it in my environment. It would be kind of nice if we wanted to just connect to a target somewhere and all of this was done for us, right? We don't have to think about it.
I like a good fiction story, Rosemary, but, we have to... Are you sure that that's real?
I don't know. I mean, we'll try it today. That's what we're going to try and set up today. And if you were watching this and you have comments, you have questions, you have concerns, you have feedback, you're like, you two are going down the completely wrong track of how to configure this, please help us. But as you do, drop it in chat and be welcoming, respectful, and professional. Please adhere to some community guidelines. We want everyone to participate. We do answer some questions live. We do have some commentary live. And just to let you know, if you have a comment that gets dropped in chat and we don't address it immediately, it's not because we're ignoring it. It's because some of our platforms have to bring in some of these replies, and we don't necessarily see all of them. But if you do have specific questions, we usually go back after the live stream and answer the comments if we don't catch them on the stream. And if you catch them in the playback, you're usually not going to be seeing them live. But we try to answer those questions and comments live. All right. Anything I missed, Cole?
No, I think that was wonderful.
Okay, good. Should we dive into it? Should we talk a conceptual overview about credentials brokering?
Yes.
What's changed?
Absolutely. Well, actually, yeah, we should. I guess you already gave the recap. So, why don't you give the overview of? Well, you kind of have to, but if you want, maybe the concepts and the conceptual architecture would be a good, so that everyone has the high level of where we're going in this quote unquote non-fiction story that's definitely possible and true in this reality and timeline.
Yeah. I'm going to actually show a very, very neat animation of this because I think it explains it a lot better than when
they're stick figures? Are they stick figures?
They're not stick figures.
Oh, darn.
We all wish they were stick figures. But I'm going to share it. I hope the animation shows up on screen, but I'm a little bit skeptical if it will.
Okay.
Let's see. There we go.
That's just me.
What was that? Oh, no, it doesn't show up on screen. Oh, that's sad. That's very sad. Oh well. Okay, so that doesn't show up well on screen.
Yeah.
But you get the diagram, kind of.
Oh no, it's going. It's doing it.
It's
I
moving?
see it. Yeah, there it is. It's moving.
Okay. You know what it is? I think I have to put it like this. Okay, here we go. All right. Let's see. Does that work? Okay, that works.
Yeah, there you go. I see it.
Yeah, I have to kind of narrow it down a little bit so folks can actually see that. All right. So the first thing is that I imagine this scenario, right, where you don't have to copy and paste certain credentials into your local machine in order to access some kind of target. And so how this works, is that you'll see that there is a credential that comes from some secret manager somewhere, gets injected to Boundary, passed to the user. The user gets this magical password. The password gets propagated through to the Boundary worker and to whatever target endpoint you want. Today we're going to be showing two types, SSH credentials and database credentials. This doesn't work for every single set of credentials. There are certain limitations, but if you do want to inject certain secrets in, and that a user who needs to connect to a target endpoint doesn't really need to handle them directly, you can use Boundary credentials injection in order to do so. There are two parts to credentials injection, though, which are not in any of these diagrams. But I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
But if you want to sort of break down the two pieces, there is what you have to set up, which is a credentials store, which is where those credentials are coming from, and a credentials library, right? And the credentials library is going to describe where those credentials reside in the credentials store. So the store you can think of as a connection to some kind of credentials management. It could be internal to Boundary, it could be external to Boundary. And then credentials library is basically which kind of credentials you want to connect to a given target. So you have to associate the library to the target, and then you have to do a store. The store itself is where it's going to be located.
Oh, okay. So store is how we talk to where the credential lives. Library is how we move the credential from the store to the specific target, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay, cool.
a store is encrypted in Boundary, right? So you don't have to have a credentials library if you don't want to necessarily, but it's a good way just to split them across if you have different endpoints and things like that. So if you wanted to get really fine-grained, like for example, if you know that you have, this only maybe works for a different kind of cloud account, but the idea is maybe you know that you have a credential store that has a couple different certificates in it. One certificate goes toward dev, one certificate goes toward prod, something like that. You would be able to split one library into dev, one library into prod, and then connect the library to dev endpoints versus prod endpoints.
Gotcha.
You can have just a general store, that's fine, and you can connect directly to that store and targets can have access to it. But libraries provide a little bit more fine-grained sort of control over what kind of credentials are existent together. So,
I have a thought, question,
yeah.
discussion thing. When I first started using Boundary, and I say this because the first time someone introduced the idea to me, once we got past the very long and delicious name of the entire thing, I was like, wait, that's kind of what I expected it to do out of the box. I was like, I still have to, I've noticed in the demo things that I still have to have an SSH key, present, for example, when I'm using that flow. But I expected immediately for this to take this out of my hands and for me to be able to just go and do it, which, part of that then was like, well, why am I doing this in the first place? And I was like, well, because even though previous this stream, I'm still using an SSH key, the benefit is still, right, the control to where I can go, the administrative capabilities, right, all the other things that we've shown. I was like, oh, right. Of course, yeah. So, your thoughts on that?
So it's kind of a matter of scale at that point, right? Because it's like two of us maybe who need to access these machines. So sharing an SSH key pair maybe isn't that big of a deal, right? But if you have a large enterprise with different hosts, who, from a security perspective, you might not want to share certain SSH keys or SSH certificates across each of these hosts, or you have a lot of different databases and not everybody should be accessing them. Or even more importantly, you're an application developer who just needs to mimic how an application would access a database, and you want that same set of credentials. You don't really want to be copying and pasting them and then distributing them everywhere, right? It kind of contributes to the whole secret sprawl problem.
Yep.
And so it's like it works just fine if you've got maybe one or two people who need to access an endpoint. But when you have to distribute access across many different parties with different access control levels, it's very hard to manage the secrets that are associated with it, right? Now, on its own, Boundary has a credential store that's built in, and we will explore that. It does encrypt those credentials. So you kind of just bring your own credentials, and things are fine. But they are very static, right? They're not going to get rotated. You're still kind of sharing them, to a certain degree. You just manage them in one place, and it makes it a little bit easier from a workflow perspective. If anything, it's like a developer experience workflow. And so that's what's tricky, right?
Yep.
But I think that if you are going to scale, you have a secret sprawl problem, then definitely consider doing some kind of other secrets manager like Vault or something. In which case, it can issue dynamic credentials. And I appreciate the feedback in chat that my volume is lower. I'm going to just
And you do sound better now.
Okay, I'm just going to adjust the volume.
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Sorry, everybody. So I tried some new settings, and they were like, because we were trying to like tune this, so I had to turn a bunch of stuff off, and then like it says you have to automatically adjust your mic volume.
So now sit back to where you were, and it'll be good.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Up is very
when
you sit, when you sit close, it's very extra. So back there, you'd be good. Okay.
I'm very I am very extra. Did that answer your question, Cole?
Oh yeah, that was wonderful.
Okay.
Delectable.
We have a few questions in chat. We have, what's this live series about? This is about HashiCorp Boundary, which is a secure remote access management tool that will help you access various endpoints and your security team to control access to those endpoints. That's a very, very short summary. And how would you build your own library? Credentials library. There is not a way to extend the credentials library, or at least the type of store. So I think we support Vault, and I think we support the built-in store, I think, credential store. But we don't have additional kind of like libraries or things like that you can plug in right now. Maybe there will be a plug-in system, but as of right now, you may have to build your own by reverse engineering, unfortunately. And someone mentioned a shout out to Terraform. Hopefully you are configuring these things by Terraform. Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that question is why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Just being honest. Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of complicated wiring, right? So, and you know, we're doing it by console today, just for the sake of making sure folks understand the concepts and the examples. But anything that you see that is done in the UI does have a corresponding Terraform resource in the Boundary Terraform provider, which we do eventually capture after the stream. And so that's how we could probably lead into what we've already set up by Terraform and what's changed, right?
Yes. So in the background, in between the streams, to set this up and let us achieve a purity of focus in the topic that we're trying to hit today, which is the everything around this credentials injection, right? There are some other things that needed to happen. First up, we needed one of those stores, and that store is going to be Vault. So we set up an HCP Vault instance to serve as that store. However, in setting up that store, since we're going to also be working with database credentials, we also needed a database. So in the background, we also set up an RDS database. Now, here's the thing: if you're using HCP Vault, if you're using the HashiCorp Cloud Platform and you're on AWS and you want to set it up so that you can connect privately in between the two, right? Something that you're going to need to do is set up a HashiCorp virtual network and connect it to your actual AWS network where all of your other stuff lives, which requires some other wiring. And, in this case, I've told Rosemary this morning I forgot that VPC peering existed, so I did way too much and set up a transit gateway for one little connection, and I was like, So anyhow, that all got set up in the background. Usually I would walk through all of that code. I can at some point, but honestly, there was so much more than there needed to be because I forgot about that. There's not really a point. The only other thing that happened was setting up the database secrets engine and connecting it to the RDS, the RDS instance, such that Vault can set up a temporary credential in the database for us, which is going to sort of foreshadow, I guess, into what we're going to do with that. I think in the second part of the stream, right?
Yeah, second part. We're going to split it into two parts. Hopefully we get through all of it.
Yeah.
I can't attest whether or not we will. But we will try. Try. Okay. So let's get into it. We're going to start with a static credential store. This is going to be built into Boundary, and we are going to store an SSH key into it.
Yep.
Yeah, because as of right now, Cole has been using his SSH key pair to get to the various targets that you've been watching us access on this stream series, on the streaming series. So you've been watching Cole magically use these SSH key pairs on his local machine, but as of right now, he's had to like copy and paste them and send them to me.
Whoops.
So,
I just wanted to get that on there. Okay.
It's okay. It's fine. You can show it right now, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I will show it.
Yeah, we're just, we're going to go through, like I said, we're going to go through this by UI, partly so that folks get the concept. We typically automate after, just so that folks who like to automate this sort of thing have the example. But we do want to make sure that the terms and the concepts are solidified before we move on.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's see. Can you bump up the font like twice on this?
Yes. 1, 2, maybe 3?
Yeah.
3 good?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay.
So first thing we are going to do is go into our organization. We have a few set up already.
Yep.
And we have a few projects set up. So Cole, choose a project that has an SSH target that we've already set up.
Let's go into the original.
The OG.
It is the first.
Yes. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is let's just check out the targets, just so folks know that we have targets. We have some EKS nodes and we have some static hosts. Cole, how do you access these right now?
In the actual target. So so if we head over to the command line, this was the Boundary Connect, right? Boundary Connect. Yeah.
Correct.
SSH, right? And then the ID of the target.
Yeah.
So one of these 2 targets and then the rest of this, and this puts us in. Yep.
Yeah. But the thing is that usually you would have to pass in a private key, right? You can't just.
Absolutely.
So how have you configured this so that you don't, like, magically this doesn't show the private key or doesn't show that you're using a private key file? But do you have like an SSH config that you've set up already? Okay.
Yeah. So in the background, I've got the SSH key that will let me into ultimately the target. But it's on my keyring, my local keyring, so that's why you've never seen it, right?
Yeah. So we will not display it on screen today because then.
But on purpose, we won't do it on purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. You mean like we don't accidentally put, credentials on screen?
Oh, not ever. Yeah.
All right. So you might be like, oh, this is already fine. But if Cole, if you were to tell me, Rosemary, I need you to debug something, how exactly would I get access to the SSH key to get to this target?
That is when I would say, well, it works on my machine.
Yeah, exactly. So now Cole has to copy and paste it and send it to me. So, so just to prove that we are actually going to connect into this then make sure we do have a connection set up. Connection is set up, right?
Yep,
so that's great. So this gives the illusion of credentials injection, but doesn't really, because really Cole has just set up his SSH config.
Yep.
And that's really all that's happening here. So we're going to go into credential store back in the Boundary UI.
Alrighty, credential store.
Okay, so this is where we're going to create a collection of credentials. So we're going to click new, and it's going to be a static credential store.
Okay.
We can name it SSH key, I guess.
Yeah, why don't we call it our... So I've been suffixing everything with like GIB, which makes me feel like I'm saying give me the key. All right, I'll stop. It was a bad joke. Okay,
you
so
can put it in there.
Sure, we'll do that.
We'll do
the give SSH key. Okay. All right.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. All right, but let's go. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're going. So we're going to choose static.
Yep.
We're not going to broker through Vault right now, but we're just going to store it in in Boundary directly. So we're going to save that.
Saved.
Okay, so now we can load some credentials, right?
All right.
There's a little tab that says credentials. We're going to click on that.
Hello. There we go.
And we're going to add some new credentials.
All right.
We are not going to use the username and password. So, yes, you could also name this
SSH key.
Yeah, I guess.
Because this will be nested under the original, right?
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is the same SSH key that is attached to the boundary worker, and it's the same SSH key that's attached to the target. It has to be the same in order for it to forward the SSH request. So there is a nuance to this. When you do set it up, you do have to make sure the worker has access to this SSH key, as well as the target has access to this SSH key. That is something to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to go down and see what options we have. We have username and key pair, I think is probably our best bet.
Alrighty.
Okay, so we have our username, which is going to be ec2-user, and then our private key.
Yes.
Which I guess we should probably take you off share.
Yes, and I will put that in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this in and save it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put this
There's
in
magic
and save
in the
it.
background.
And I'm not going to show this.
Yeah.
In fact, out of paranoia, I'm going to actually just remove this off even any chance of it getting shown.
I mean, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Can't be too careful. Can't be too careful. But we try not to show credentials on screen, but
Okay, I'm pretty sure there's no way it's going to be shown
unavoidable.
now. But let me just.
You might as well click save just in case, because I don't know if the box the form box masks it.
Yeah, I saved it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So.
We'll go back on.
Yep, I think so.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So we do not see the key pair, but Cole did paste it. So
I did. I promise.
Don't worry, everybody. It's possible. It's fine. It's there. Okay. So now that we have a credential store, the credential store in itself just encrypts and then stores the credential, right? So it's not like it's going to do anything, but we have to attach it to a target. And that's when we have to do basically we have to figure out how we're going to attach it.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so there's a couple different ways to do this. There's injection and then there's brokering. So brokering, I guess the two terms are sort of, in my mind, very similar, but they're actually not so similar.
Do you want me to go to where that screen is?
It says targets.
Targets. Okay.
Okay. So there's kind of two separate concepts to this, right? There's brokering and then there's injection. And the thing about brokering is that it's just going to return it's going to return it back to the user, right? So it's not going to directly inject it into the command. It will just.
What is this called again? This one?
Brokering. Yeah.
Just brokering. Okay.
Yeah. Credentials brokering.
Gotcha.
And so it's not going to inject it directly on your behalf, right? So it's not going to just make it magically like, there is no password, don't do anything. Like, brokering means it will come back to the user. The user will have to copy paste to a certain degree. Now, there are certain types of credential stores that will just sort of auto inject it in and things are fine. But what you will find is that if you have like a traditional username and password, you will have to get the username and password and it will come back out. And the other thing that is a little bit nuanced is that injection itself is on HTTP Boundary or Boundary Enterprise. So some direct injection where it's completely passwordless is through HTTP Boundary and Boundary Enterprise. It's not going to be Community Edition, which is what
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because I was like, there's usually another tab here.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll probably show that. On the HTTP Boundary stream. We are going to split that out separately because there are some more advanced features for those who are looking for sort of the enterprise level scale. Not that this isn't already, but if you want sort of completely streamlined developer experience as well as the additional auditing and security experience, right? We're going to split that out into separate episodes. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Nice. I was always wondering
technically,
that, but yeah. Okay.
We should probably call this credentials brokering to be consistent. Now that I think about it, but I think they're roughly the same.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not.
Well, yeah, it's just kind of who the credential is going to, right,
Yeah.
or injected to, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, we're going to add some brokered credentials.
All right.
And then this is you notice there's only one set that we've created.
Yep.
So we're going to add those brokered credentials and assign it to the target.
Okay.
And so this means that this is a target. We've attached now this credential to this target. Yep. You can assign it to the set of targets. Yes, again, preferably by Terraform. Or you can, assign some other sets of credentials if you need to, but we're going to just assign this SSH key to access this target.
Alrighty. So to test this, then I should remove the current key. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've got that removed. Well, I meant to do a little d, so now they're all removed. So now I definitely have nothing at all on this.
You removed all of it? Are you sure?
Yeah, I just removed all of my identities from that, so that's going to be
Are you sure? I mean, that...
yeah, it's there. It's gone. So,
okay.
I mean, it's fine. So that's all gone. I definitely have nothing now. This is where I am. So... but I should still be able to do this same, do I even need username now, or do I just put the target?
So you want to, we'll try this. Yeah, try this. You don't need username.
Yeah, so I should just be able to, is this the same target? Let me check. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
LP,
WPI. Yeah.
WPI. And lo and behold, we are still in.
Yeah, which is kind of like, what? Like, what did we just see?
Yay. All right.
Yeah, so that's why it's a bit of a bit confusing, because injection does work for SSH, for example. So this is actually injecting on our behalf, right? You notice Cole didn't reference like a boundary targets authorized session and then it dumped out the key for us to use. It just sort of injected it for us, right? And we didn't output like a username or a password, right? It all just sort of injected for us. We can automatically SSH into it, and everything is great. And also, we just don't have the key at all anywhere on our local machine, so really,
yeah. So just to clarify again, injection, which is HCP or enterprise, that gets injected into the worker, but broker returns it directly to me before, not me, but like locally to me, and then I go in, right?
Yeah, and then you can go in and use it. But it's kind of a little strange to me because I think SSH is injected automatically, especially if you're using the boundary credential store. In my experience, it seems to be injected automatically.
Well, the reason I asked that is because since it came from this machine, the little fingerprint for that key being tied to my location didn't come through again. So like I think your original thing was right, that it came like that we have it and then we go in, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, hold on. I gotta make sure my device doesn't do the security update like right now. Okay, that'd be bad.
It goes to show. Yeah. All right. So I think, and so that's where it's a little, like I said, it's a little bit confusing. But I would say brokering is more important if you have a password, right? A username password, right? For some of these more, I would say, common use cases where you are SSHing, these are things that can be injected. These are workflows that can be, programmatically added to Boundary, versus some things like username password debatably have different kind of authentication sequences, in which case you might not expect Boundary to inject them automatically, right? So certain use cases yes, certain use cases no. So, all right, so that was pretty straightforward in
that was.
SSH. I thought it would take a little bit more, but
it's we still have some past from other streams we won't mention where we're like, this is gonna be quick, and it was not quick. So,
no. We've had to repeat streams before. Yeah. The ongoing joke is like sometimes we repeat an episode because we like sit there spinning our wheels and we clearly configure it wrong, and we clearly like learned how to not configure it the right way, and then we've had to re-record multiple times because process of elimination live. So just to tell folks, like, we're not doing this perfectly. Like, we don't always run through all of these. Okay, so that is credential brokering. Before I forget, I am going to make sure I put some documentation out there. So this is what we just did. This is the static credential store. Static credential store. I'm going to drop that there so folks can access it. It's as such. Take a look. If you are not using a password secrets manager anywhere specifically, you just kind of want the experience of having sort of this seamless developer connectivity to a target endpoint and you are like me, in which you would rather cold not copy and paste the private key into a password vault and share it all over the place, then you might want to try this. But you probably have some kind of secrets manager, and here we typically have Vault. And Vault has a very convenient capability, which is dynamic secrets. So Vault will issue a new secret on demand. And so that way we're able to request, Boundary is able to request a new credential from Vault to connect to a target endpoint, and Vault will lease out a credential for a certain period of time. After that certain period of time, the credential will expire. From a Boundary perspective, you may continue to use that. You may continue to have that session open, but if you try to reconnect again after those credentials expire, Boundary will no longer have access and thus cannot connect anymore. So that's one thing to consider. So there is sort of a timing between the life cycle of a dynamic credential that you get from Vault and the amount of time you anticipate using it on the Boundary side. So just keep that in mind.
So before we move on, there's a pretty good question there. So brokering, there is a way. So with brokering, there is a way. Here, I'll just put it on screen.
Struggle is real.
Yes.
There we go.
With brokering, there is a way for the user to see the contents of the credentials.
Yes, there is. We are going to show this in the Vault sequence because the database credential should theoretically be dynamic and will expire at the end of this stream. We would just rather not show Cole's private key on the screen.
I don't want that to happen.
So that's why we went with the SSH credential store, which seems a bit magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems a bit magical, right? So it's because we're not showing the sequence to actually print out those credentials because we don't want poor Cole to have to go through and
wipe all of it, yeah.
Yeah, wipe all of it and everything else. So we are going to go the alternative route. We will show how you print those credentials to the screen for a user to use. And that is how brokering does work, right? Injection itself, right, isn't across every single use case, as I mentioned before.
Yep.
And so we are going to I think we're going to have to do brokering where we print out the credentials for the database connection.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that might not be automatically injected, but we'll see.
So there is going to be an in-between step, and I will be honest, I can't recall if we said we were going to show this live or not, or if I was supposed to have it set up, but I definitely do not have it set up. And then as simply that I do not have a target set up in Boundary for the actually RDS database.
Oh, we should probably do that.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
Otherwise, it kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's set up a target for the RDS instance. It is PostgreSQL, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing let's just do it in the UI versus
Yeah,
this.
okay. We'll just do it in the UI.
Okay.
Otherwise, people will be watching us run Terraform for 5 minutes.
Yeah, this is fair. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just call this give database.
Database. Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
sounds-
I appreciate the suggestions on how to mask the credentials. Unfortunately, we're not using OBS because we have multi guests and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not using it, but I wish they had some masking or something on this. Maybe we should put a banner.
Yeah, StreamYard. Anyhow, target.
Don't call it out. It's fine. We'll give that product feedback.
Yeah.
Give that product feedback.
So
it's a Friday. I miss Friday streams. I feel like we completely lose it on a Friday. Okay. Target address.
Yes.
Your Postgres host name. I assume it's accessible somewhere.
Let's go get this guy.
I don't know how you connected it, but I'm going to assume you connected it somewhere.
Yes, just the string. Endpoint. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. So put this in here. Does the target address string, does it require the format with the PostgreSQL protocol and all that other stuff?
It should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think you're right, because we would inject the credentials. Yeah.
Yeah, but it might be under hosts. I don't know. It's fine. It'll automatically do it, I think, because on the front end, it's a syntactic sugar.
Okay, yeah.
Client port, the local proxy, it doesn't matter. We're not going to set a client port.
Okay.
Maximum connections. We don't, that's fine. Unlimited, we can do -1.
Okay. Wait.
Fun,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So fun fact about maximum connections with databases, you may have to set actually 2 or 3. So,
yeah.
Yeah. It's because the way that it initiates the connection and then subsequently makes the session, it sometimes for certain databases is like 2. So yeah, if you set like 1 there, meaning I only ever allow 1 max connection, sometimes it will like authenticate and then time out and drop you. So it's like just for those who are interested. Okay, we're gonna save because I don't think we ever really showed a database target.
Nope, we didn't.
No. Okay, we haven't showed a database target. Okay, so now we have a target. This is for the database. There's not really anything that is different about this.
Yep.
We're going to set. We set up the database secrets engine, right?
Yep.
In
I
Vault?
can show that here.
Yeah.
So what do you want me to show in here?
Can you show the database secrets engine? And I
Yes,
assume the
right here.
config is in there. So what we did was we set up a connection to the database. You can do connections to Catberry. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Catberry. Catberry database has a connection to it. And so we are using a managed instance, but you can choose your database plugin and associated database type. And hopefully, I don't know, are you connected to Vault on CLI?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Can you click the little that little CLI drop down on the top left? The little terminal drop down next to that thingy. Okay. Can you do a read? And then it will be, so we want to do a read.
Yep.
Getting dash into boundary, whatever that database, that database path. Boundary, database, /creds. And did you set up a role or you didn't set up a role?
Yeah, I should. I think I did. I should say, well, I would have to go back.
I think Catberry. I think you set it up as Catberry.
Yeah.
Creds, Catberry.
Here, I can just go back and look.
I think you set up.
Catberry.
Yeah,
here we go. So we need to do Catberry.
Catberry, yeah. So what we're doing, we're skipping over to the Vault nuances. But what we're doing is basically we set up a connection to the database. We attach a Vault role to it. That Vault role has a SQL statement that is like a creation statement or an alter statement or a revocation statement. It's a SQL statement that basically creates a new user in the database and returns that user for Vault to return back to whoever's requesting it. So what we're doing is we're going to demand Vault give us a new database username and password.
Yep.
Hopefully. Relation Catberry does not exist. Is the database table named Catberry?
This is a good question.
We should probably initialize that.
Let me see here.
Create a table or something.
Let's see.
What is the database name?
Yes, let's go see. Where did I put this? RDS. The default database name is DB,
Catberry.
but so Catberry.
Yeah, so I think we need to actually create a table.
Okay.
1 second.
Yeah.
You can log in via the admin password, right?
Log into the actual RDS instance. Yes, I can. I'm going to do that off screen though.
Okay. And then I'm going to send you a SQL statement. This is one of those things we didn't prepare entirely. You want a Catberry table?
A Catberry table. Wait, that's right. I can just well, no, I can't because it's not a target. 1 second. Don't want a Catberry table. That's probably the easiest thing to do, right?
Yeah, Catberry table in the Catberry database.
Yep. Okay, let me hop into my thing here.
Yeah, because it does require some initial initial connection to happen, right? Otherwise, it can't get into it.
1 second. I'm almost into it. So while I get this credential, can you tell them what I'm doing? If you wouldn't mind?
So what happens right now is that when it's first created, when you create an RDS PostgreSQL instance, it comes with the not the table, it comes with the database, right? And so in this case, Cole did set up a database called Catberry, but in order for the
all right, I'm in.
In order for the Vault user to actually create the username and everything else, it needs to know which database it needs to be creating said user for. And more importantly, it also needs to have some reference to something that already exists in the database.
Okay.
And just to double check things, Cole, can you click on the role?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's make sure that role is correct. Because that's the creation statement that I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And the creation statement.
Yes, the table.
Yes, the table. Let me just make sure. I have to pull it up because it's been a while. Yeah, that's just select on Catberry. Okay, so the reason why it came back with this Catberry doesn't exist is that the creation statement that Cole made is allowing read only on the Catberry table. It's not to the database, it's to the Catberry table. So that's why I select on Catberry to the username. So Vault is complaining because it's trying to create a user for access to the Catberry table, but the Catberry table does not exist. Mm-hmm. So what Cole is doing is creating the Catberry table, right, so that this user can actually be assigned the role to access the table, which now should in theory exist. I hope.
Yeah. What? It doesn't matter what fields I add, right?
No, you can choose whatever fields. Okay. Whatever you want. You could add an ID and a name. That's fine. Okay. Like I said, it's not anything. Yeah, so there is a little bit of, if you are going to set this up where it's brokering credentials from Vault, there is a little bit of setup that you do need to consider when you are configuring Vault. But it is kind of convenient, right? So imagine that I had an application that needed access to the Catberry table, and all it ever needed was read-only access to said table. In which case, I could effectively use the credentials brokered through Boundary to test my application locally as if it had the same access to the database in production, right? Because these injections or these permissions on the injections would be similar to what maybe the application might get when it's running in production. So you can mimic how an application would behave if you wanted to do some local testing.
Okay, so let me make sure this is there.
We could also just change the role.
Okay, we're there. It's up.
Okay. All right,
so,
let's try this again.
Try this again. And there we go.
Okay, so you'll notice that we've asked Vault to provide us a new username and password to the database, and it is a username that has the V token in the prefix and a password.
Yay!
Yeah, and the time to live of this is 1 hour. So by the time this stream ends, you could try, I guess, using this, but you wouldn't be able to do much. And then after an hour, it expires.
I mean, I could show real quick us using that credential.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So
let me.
If you want to.
So I'm actually in one of our workers here. Mm-hmm. In one of the workers live. And so what is this? Piece equal. Should I have the command right here? Yeah. So username is very long.
Yeah. A very long username. You can template this out for those who are not familiar with Vault. You can template this out if you want to.
And then let me put this guy in here. And there we go, we're in.
Yeah, and so you're on the Catberry database. You can select from Catberry.
Yay, okay.
There you go.
There it is.
Cool. So that's that. We know we can get the credentials from Vault. So now it's time to connect Vault to Boundary, right? Because what we want Boundary to do is to call Vault and request those same credentials from Vault. Now, when I say same credentials, I don't mean the same username or password. I just mean that we want Boundary to behave just like we did and just make the request to get a username and some password from Vault for this database. So we're going to go back to Boundary now that we confirmed that this works. And we're going to go to brokered credentials. Or actually, we should go to credential store. Yeah, actually, we need to add the credential store first. Okay, so new credential store.
All right.
And we can name this GIB database. Yes. This is truly unfortunate.
It stands for something. It stands for getting into Boundary.
Okay. Vault.
All right, Vault.
Access of the Vault server. I think it should have access between the two, but I don't know.
Do I need to give it like the Vault string, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to give it the Vault user, the Vault 8200.
Just this Vault. So it needs the port too. Okay.
Yeah, it needs the port.
All right. Address.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. And then a token for accessing Vault.
That's gonna have to be off screen.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could generate a token for yourself, or I mean, technically you should generate a token with certain permissions on it if you really want to be specific. So you go to access, or you could use the one token to rule it all. Up to you.
Yeah. What would you like to do here?
Just for the sake of speed.
Let's just use the. Okay. So why don't we fill the rest of these out, and then I will take this off screen and save it real quick.
Namespace. Okay.
Yes.
We are using HCP Vault for ease of standing up because we didn't feel like setting up a Vault server on our own today.
Nope.
Yeah. So it's we're in Vault, HCP Vault, Vault Enterprise. You have a namespace, so we're gonna put our namespace in there, which is admin. We don't really need to set the TLS server name, and we're not skipping TLS certificates because, again, we're running this on HCP. Okay.
So that's the only thing. All right. So let me go add this token real quick.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I will find the correct Vault credentials brokering, the correct policy, so folks can actually see. So typically, what you would do is you would set up a set of a token that in Vault that is tied to Boundary specifically. So let me grab the link for this, put that in there. There is a tutorial for it. We are not going to go through it in significant depth because it requires quite a bit of explanation for how you set up Vault tokens. So I'm going to pop the tutorial.
Oh, I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to have to refresh that token real quick because you know what I'm talking about,
yes,
right?
I do.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
It's temporary,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share the at least the policy so that folks know. Okay, so let me share that. Credentials, so that's a tutorial. Credentials, brokering, Vault. Okay, and then I don't want the tutorial. I want the actual policy list. 1 second, everybody. There is a policy that is available. Okay. This is credentials management. And then, let's see. Boundary, conjunction. This is what happens when, okay, here we go. This is what happens. I just wanted the policy. I don't know what, it's like, it's embedded somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. I'm almost done. I'm just refreshing the token for us to use. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me show folks the policy so we have it. Otherwise.
Oh, wait, is it that long policy that you sent me or that we have in our other code?
Yeah, it's the boundary controller policy. That one. Okay. And so basically you need to create a separate policy with a couple, it's not long, but it has to have a couple capabilities and a couple paths added to it. Namely that it has to be able to look up itself, its own token. It has to be able to renew its own token. It has to be able to revoke its own token, renew, revoke, update capability. So you do also have to have the policy for that set up. The other thing that you need to have set up is which secrets you want to access, right? So not only do you have to define a policy that allows the token to look up and renew itself because Vault tokens do expire, you must also define a policy and attach it to the token to access the secrets you want. So in our case, we need to be very prescriptive. and let the token know that it needs to be able to access the cat berry or whatever it was. Getting into boundary /database /cred/catberry path, right? So again, you're not familiar with Vault. We're not going to go too deeply into it. We have a couple series out there already about it, but it is an API path. So you do have to tell Boundary or grant the Vault token that is going to be assigned to Boundary that it needs access to that secret.
So we are going to have to make a token because I actually didn't realize this or know this until through the error. It needs a token that can be refreshed.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Renewed,
So we do actually need to make one. So I guess we get to bypass and develop.
There we go. Okay. You get to see the whole thing, everybody.
Yeah. So show us, Rosemary. How do we do this?
All right. So I sent you a command to make it easier on ourselves. The first thing we're going to do is write. I'm going to.
Wait, you did? Where did you send me?
By Slack.
You sent me a command to make the. Wait, the policy? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Vault policy.
You
can do that within the.
I think so. So tell me, because this was from some of the code. If you can see my screen.
Let me put. Can I put it up there now?
Sure. Because it's stuff that's up in the public code.
Did I magically already do this?
Yeah. So here's.
Oh my gosh, I did.
Yeah. So here the policy's definitely in here. Wait. So we did make the token?
No, you did make. Yeah, we did make the token. We just never printed it out.
Oh, right. You know what? It's Friday.
Wait, what's the DB? Let's check the DB policy. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
The DB policy is get admin database credentials. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then okay, yeah.
So the policies, the tokens are, so we just need to go grab the token.
Rosemary did this. Okay.
So we need to actually go just get the token out of here then, right?
Well, we have a token. We just have to get it out of Terraform.
Oh, of course. Right. You know what?
You have it as an output.
Yeah.
You have it as an output.
I absolutely do. Let me just get it. It's okay. It's all right. It's, you know what?
Remove the screen share so that you can.
I've got it on a different screen.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'll leave it up there. This is prior Rosemary doing work that she forgot she did.
Yeah, this was in our Hashi stack.
I know. Well, this is the thing about Terraform. I just do it once and then I forget all about it and I copy paste that I did the config correctly the first time and then I forgot that I did it.
Okay, let me.
Anyway, so we already got that. You also noticed that in this in the Terraform that Cole showed. You might have noticed there's two policies for the database. One is for admin credentials, and one is for the regular credentials that are vended by Vault. The reason why I did this was partially so that I could show elevated admin access to the database with a separate set of credentials versus just having the sort of the application simulated credentials that I would get back. So. There are ways that you can separate these permissions, and there's a way for you to say, okay, these set of credentials have a little bit more elevated privilege. You can delete things out of the tables and things like that, versus others where you might not want to do that.
Okay, 1 second. I'm finally there. Okay, we did it, fam.
Thank you for the cheering in the chat.
We did it. Okay. All right, we did it. Yay, let me put this back.
I feel like our Friday streams are much better than our Thursday streams just because we're just...
All right. Yay, give database, give key.
We did it. Okay.
All right.
Do we need to set up a credentials library for this? I don't know if we need to.
We do
because we didn't set up a path. So we have to... So here's the thing. When you set up a credential store that is tied to Vault, your application or your target has no earthly idea where it's supposed to get the credentials from, right? It's like, I don't know. I know I should theoretically call Vault, but there is nothing in the original credential store settings that tells me, like, you need to be using this API path.
Yeah.
It just basically says you connect to Vault.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like, here's the store. Good luck.
Yeah. Here's the store. So we need to define a credentials library so that we can actually define where the target is going to source the credentials from within Vault. So if we click New.
New.
And then we can call this gib database read only because
database Read-only.
It's technically a read-only set of credentials.
All right.
And then the vault path. So this is where we want to do the getting dash into dash boundary slash database slash creds slash
Catberry.
Yeah, Catberry.
Do you want me to double check? Because we have this.
No, I think I'm confident.
Yep.
How confident are we?
Okay, we're good because we're 100 now. All right.
Okay, credential type. It is a database or username password.
Okay.
There we go. And you can do some key mappings if you want to. I think username attribute. I don't think we need to do any mappings because
no mapping. Well, once you select it, there's no going back apparently.
No, you don't add it. You haven't added it yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, optional. I see. Okay.
They're optional. So if, let's say, you had some credentials, static credentials stored in Vault, and you named them like spring.datasource.username, right? Because it's an application, you could remap that to username. You know, just so that if you wanted to do local testing and you want to do this credentials injection, you would remap it, right? But I'm talking about Spring because that's the one that I can think of off the top.
Oh, I thought it was because we're going into spring.
Oh.
All right. Anyhow,
it's the first day of spring, I guess. I'm like kind of stunned because I guess that kind of makes sense. No, I was talking about Java, like.
Yeah. Okay.
But it works. It works. Okay. So the other thing is that it's going to be a GET request. There are some requests in Vault that are POST requests, right? Like some certificate endpoints are like this. So it's GET. For a database credential, it's GET. So we're going to save that.
Okay. Save.
Yeah. And so this will set a credentials library for database read-only.
Yay. All right.
Okay. So now we're going to go to our targets.
Yay.
We're going to go to our GIB database. You just keep laughing when I say
Okay. We're here.
Brokered credentials.
All right.
And we're going to add brokered credentials. We're going to, of course, do the whatever that CL Vault GIB database read only.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to add that to our database. And now we should theoretically be able to connect to it.
Okay. So let's head back over to the CLI. And what is this?
Okay, so we are going to do, actually, I think Boundary Connect PSQL or something is actually one of the
here we go. You actually have in my history here.
Oh, because I think I made you do this before.
Yeah, you for our Hashi stack thing you did.
Yeah. Okay. So at the time, I don't think you knew precisely what you were typing.
No,
so this is
not
great.
at all. Not at all. Okay, so
now
I can
you get to learn it again.
Yes. Okay, so.
Past Rosemary.
Yep. So this is Catberry, and then this should just be the target, right?
Yeah, target.
And there's nothing else that we need to do, yeah?
No, theoretically no. But, I'm just telling you, it never works the first time around whenever we do anything, except, very rarely. So let's
All right, here's the spring.
Oh! It worked!
Oh, you look at that.
I'm shook.
Oh my gosh. Goodness. We've got it.
Select star on Catberry. from Catberry? You forgot the semicolon.
Yes.
There we go.
So
you could drop Catberry. See if you could drop table. You can't because you don't have credentials to do.
Yeah, well, can I list all tables? Oh, well.
Yeah, because I think you have
there's only one table.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because so do drop table Catberry.
Oh my, okay.
Cole's gonna drop a table in production.
Okay, thank goodness. All right. All right.
The point is, you're like, why does this matter? It's because Cole does not have sufficient permissions based on those Vault credentials. So those Vault credentials only have read-only access, so he can't drop tables, he can't mess with anything. He's almost mimicking what an application might have access to if this is what an application was going to have access, right? From a least privileged perspective. Okay, so one last thing before we do this, because I did promise that we were actually going to print the credentials on screen. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you were to do brokering and it wasn't doing injection, like I said before, injection is a bit confusing because technically the credentials injection does work without
without needing HTTP boundary or enterprise for certain types of connections, like a PostgreSQL connection or an SSH connection. But for other connections where it's like passwordless and seamless, you know, you might need HTTP boundary or boundary enterprise for it. But in the case that you have a password and it's not going to support injection, it will look something like this. Where is, I think it's boundary authorized session.
Should I?
Yeah, you have to go back.
Exit,
Get
okay,
out of the
okay.
exit.
Right.
Commands. Hold on. Okay. So I think it's going to look something like, I think it's boundary authorized session or something. Boundary authorized dash session. I want to say that.
Boundary
authorized
authorized
dash session.
dash
Sessions,
dot dash
authorized.
session. Okay.
Yeah, check if that's the CLI command.
There's a lot of stuff that actually, I don't. What did it say? It said.
No, it's not a.
Yeah. Okay.
Boundary authenticate, boundary connect,
Oh yeah. Here you go.
boundary connect. I think it's a C. It's under C. It's boundary under CLI, under the connect CLI now. But
Okay.
hold
Should
on.
I?
One moment, please. No, it is not
Oh,
under one
whoops.
of those. HTTP credentials overview. I guess you could do boundary. Oh yeah, okay. So boundary credentials read. It's under credentials read now, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you do boundary credentials read.
Okay. And then the specific.
Yeah, and then the
Credential.
specific space dash ID,
Ah.
and then
And then I need to go get. I'm guessing one of the credentials. Oh, like this guy right here.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And then what is this going to show me? The currently generated credential, or is it going to show
Yeah.
me stuff about the actual credential storage credentials?
It's going to show the actual credentials.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait. No, it's not. I did it wrong. Okay, it's under targets authorized session. I knew I was
Okay.
missing something. Boundary targets authorized dash session.
Authorized dash session.
Session. Oh my
Okay.
gosh, I knew the command. Then the ID. You'll put the ID, target ID.
Of the target. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is
That makes
this
more
guy. Okay. Ah, right. That makes sense. Yeah. And then here it is. Rosemary, you went mute. You muted yourself.
Wow. Happy
Yeah.
Friday, everybody.
Yeah, that's Friday.
We're almost done. We're almost done, everybody. So basically, we'll open a connection and request a set of usernames and passwords, and in which case you can use that to pass to a connect. So the connection command, there are some subcommands that you can pass in as sort of overrides. So you would be able to pass in username, password, right? Now this is hinged upon whether or not credentials injection works for what we set up, like username and password. It does work for us, so there's no real reason for us to necessarily do this. But if you do have an endpoint, a TCP endpoint that is not supported by sort of the traditional injection approach with the username and password, you would copy this username. You as the user or developer who's trying to access the endpoint would copy this username and password and pass it through.
Cool.
Yeah, so again, some nuances to this. If you are connecting to an external store like Vault, which is I think the only external credential store that we support right now, but if you are connecting, just make sure that the lifetime of these credentials roughly matches the lifetime of the session that you're planning to stay open, because these credentials will expire. On top of that, once you close a session in Boundary will request that Vault revokes the lease for these credentials.
Nice.
So it will terminate the existing lifetime of these credentials once you terminate the session. So
Cool.
that's pretty much all about credentials brokering. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think that is it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I think that's pretty much all we had for today. We made it.
We did.
We did make it.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm surprised. I was like, I was expecting this not to work.
Oh yeah, but to be fair, we've gotten to a point where I think you generally don't expect it to work.
Thanks.
I mean, it's just not a bad thing. It's just true.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I thought it wasn't gonna work. I expect things to fail first. I expect us to do something wrong. So, it was nice. It was pleasant that we followed all the commands that we needed to, and it was fun. Yeah. And the fact that we had done this enough times and past Rosemary had done Terraform to do this, so we didn't have to churn our way through a vault token. All right. So that's that for today. That was credentials, injection, and
next
brokering.
episode.
And the next episode, we are going to do troubleshooting. So we're going to explore the Boundary event system, just because, we need to know what's going on in Boundary. We need to do all the fun stuff, which is what happens when things are wrong and we need to be debugging. So, of course, as by popular request for many of these series, people are like, we want to actually see what troubleshooting looks like. So we are going to do some troubleshooting. If just to show these are the event systems, these are where you're going to be looking. And then there will be 2 more episodes after that, and they will be focused on HTTP Boundary or Boundary Enterprise. It will be session recording, which is a pretty common ask from an enterprise perspective, as well as transparent sessions and multi-hop sessions.
Nice.
Yeah, so we will be doing all of that. Happy Friday. We will resume back on Thursdays. I think the next one is April 3rd. Happy spring.
Yeah.
You always want to do the boundary.
Yeah, all right, it's done.
And we close out with the boundary V. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you join us for the next one.